The wind howled like a wounded animal across the Wyoming plains, clawing at the lone cabin as if it meant to tear it from the earth. Snow came down in sheets so thick it swallowed the horizon whole. And through that white blindness, a figure stumbled. Luke Mercer saw her just before dusk. At first, he thought the storm was playing tricks on him. No one traveled in weather like this, not unless they were desperate, or dying. He stepped onto his porch, boots sinking into drifts that reached his knees. The cold bit through his coat as he squinted into the storm again. There she was, a woman, thin, bent against the wind, one hand clutched at her shawl, the other dragging something behind her, a broken leather satchel, half buried in snow. She was heading straight toward his land. Luke hadn't had a visitor in over a year. He moved without thinking. By the time he reached her, she collapsed face first into the snow. "Hey!" he shouted over the wind, dropping beside her. He rolled her gently onto her back. Her skin was pale as frost, lips nearly blue, lashes heavy with ice. Her eyes fluttered open just once. Fear. That was the first thing he saw there. "Please," she whispered, barely audible. Luke hesitated. Every lesson his hard life had taught him screamed the same thing: don't bring trouble into your home. But the storm didn't care about lessons. He slid an arm under her shoulders and lifted her. "Get into my cabin," he said firmly, leaning close so she could hear. "It's freezing outside." She didn't argue. Inside, the cabin smelled of pinewood and burning oak. Luke laid her near the fire, stripped off her snow-soaked shawl, and wrapped her in thick wool blankets. He poured hot coffee into a tin cup and knelt beside her. "Drink slow," he instructed. Her hands trembled as she obeyed. Up close, she didn't look much older than 25. Dark hair tangled from the wind. A bruise near her temple. And something else, something heavier than exhaustion, sat in her eyes. "What's your name?" Luke asked. She hesitated too long. "Anna," she finally said. He nodded once. "Luke." Silence settled between them, broken only by the crackle of fire and the rage of the storm outside. "You alone?" he asked carefully. She nodded. He didn't believe her. But he didn't press. That night, Luke gave her his bed and slept in the rocking chair by the hearth, rifle across his lap, not because he feared her, but because he had learned long ago that when a stranger appears during a blizzard, something always follows. He was right. Near midnight, Anna woke screaming. Luke was on his feet in seconds. She was sitting upright in bed, eyes wide, chest heaving. "They found me," she gasped. "They're here." "Who's here?" Luke demanded. But she only shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. It took nearly an hour for her breathing to steady. She refused to explain, and Luke refused to force her. By morning, the storm had calmed into a steady snowfall. Luke stepped outside to check his horses, and froze. Fresh tracks. Not hers. 3 horses had ridden up near the ridge and circled once before turning back. They'd been watching. When he stepped back into the cabin, Anna saw his expression and went pale. "They're close, aren't they?" she whispered. Luke shut the door firmly. "Who are they?" She stared at the floor, wrestling with something inside herself. "My husband's brothers," she said at last. Luke said nothing, waiting. "They think I killed him." The words hung in the air like smoke. "I didn't," she rushed on. "He was drunk. He came at me with a knife. I ran. He chased me into the barn and slipped. He hit his head on the trough. I tried to wake him, but," her voice cracked. "They didn't believe me. And so they're hunting you." She nodded. Luke exhaled slowly. Trouble had arrived after all. "You can't stay," she said suddenly, rising from the bed. "I won't bring this to your door. You helped me. That's enough." She staggered slightly from weakness. Luke stepped forward instinctively to steady her. His hand closed around her arm, and something shifted in him. It wasn't pity. It wasn't obligation. It was recognition. He had once run too. 5 years ago, bandits had ridden through this valley and taken everything: his cattle, his savings, and his wife. She'd been caught in the crossfire when Luke tried to defend their ranch. He had survived. She hadn't. And the men responsible were never caught. He knew what it felt like to lose everything because someone else decided you were guilty of something you weren't. "You're not going anywhere," he said quietly. Anna stared at him. "Why?" "Because this is my land," Luke replied. "And nobody hunts on it without my say." Fear flickered across her face. "They're dangerous. So am I." That afternoon, Luke prepared. He reinforced the shutters, checked his ammunition, saddled 2 horses in case they needed to flee fast. Anna insisted on helping, though her hands still shook. "You don't have to do this," she said again as they stacked firewood near the door. "Maybe I do," Luke answered without looking at her. By dusk, the riders appeared. 3 silhouettes on horseback against the dying light. They stopped just outside rifle range. The tallest one called out, "We know she's here, Mercer. Hand her over and we'll be on our way." Anna's face drained of color. "That's Caleb, my husband's oldest brother." Luke stepped onto the porch, rifle resting easily in his hands. "She's under my protection," he called back. "Turn around." Caleb laughed, cold and sharp. "You don't know what she did." "I know a storm would have killed her," Luke replied. "And I know she came here alone." Silence stretched across the snow. "You're choosing the wrong side," Caleb warned. Luke felt Anna step behind him. He didn't move. "Then it's a good thing this is my side," he answered. The first shot came from the ridge. It splintered the porch railing inches from Luke's hand. The world exploded into chaos. Luke fired back, forcing the riders to scatter. Anna darted inside and loaded the spare rifle just as he'd shown her. Snow flew up in bursts where bullets struck. The fight lasted minutes but felt like hours. Finally, one horse screamed and bolted riderless into the storm. Another man fell, clutching his shoulder. Caleb cursed and signaled retreat. They disappeared into the falling snow. Luke didn't lower his rifle until the valley was silent again. Inside, Anna collapsed into a chair, shaking. "You could have died," she said. "So could you," Luke answered. That night, something changed between them. Not because of the gunfire, but because neither of them ran. Over the next few days, they worked side by side. Luke taught her how to repair fence posts. She taught him how to bake bread that didn't taste like gravel. They spoke little of the past, but enough to understand each other's wounds. Anna laughed for the first time on the 4th morning. It startled him. He realized he hadn't heard laughter in his cabin since his wife's death. And it didn't hurt the way he thought it would. A week passed. No riders returned. Snow melted slowly under a reluctant sun. One evening, as they stood watching the horizon burn orange, Anna spoke softly. "I was going to jump," she admitted. Luke frowned. "Jump? From Miller's Bridge? Before the storm? I didn't think I could outrun them. Or the shame." She swallowed. "Then I saw your cabin light." Luke's chest tightened. "You saved me," she continued. "Not just from the cold." He looked at her then, really looked. The fear that once dominated her eyes had faded. In its place was strength, resolve. "You saved yourself," he said quietly. "You chose to knock." Weeks later, a sheriff from the nearest town rode in. Caleb and his remaining brother had been arrested after starting a fight in a saloon. Witnesses came forward about the husband's violence. The truth surfaced. Anna was free. When the sheriff left, she stood in the yard staring at the open plains. "You can go anywhere now," Luke said. She turned toward him. "I know." Silence stretched between them, not empty, but full. "Do you want to?" he asked. Anna walked slowly up to him. "This is the first place I haven't felt hunted," she said. "The first place I've felt safe." Luke nodded once, heart pounding harder than it had during gunfire. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "I'm not staying because I owe you," she replied. She reached for his hand. "I'm staying because when you opened that door, you didn't just let me into your cabin," she said softly. "You let me into your life." The wind moved gently across the plains now, no longer a scream, but a whisper. Luke squeezed her hand. For the first time in years, the cabin didn't feel like a place he was hiding from the world. It felt like home again. And sometimes, the bravest thing a lonely cowboy can do isn't pulling a trigger. It's opening a door.